Hello summoners and welcome to another ProGuides video. My name is Crumbs and today we'll be talking about our predictions for the worst champions going into patch 12.8. It can be hard to really understand how different buffs and nerfs are going to affect the meta. Sometimes a seemingly huge nerf really just brings a god tier champion down to the S tier, and they are still plenty OP. Other times, what seems like a minor 2 base AD reduction just causes a champ to drop off the face of the rift. So, we're here to steer you away from what we think are going to be the worst champs in each role this patch. We'll be starting things out in the top lane with Gragas. There was a point in time not all that long ago that Gragas was a super OP top lane pick, with Phase Rush making him an insanely hard counter to any melee champ in the role. If they were a low mobility champ, you'd constantly go in for trades using a quick combo to burst them down and then zip away once your keystone procced. If it was a more mobile champ that could gap close after that combo, you'd instead just Q-poke them, then use your E to null any engage they made. He was pretty much an unbeatable laner who would go on to be just as hard to fight in the side lane while also having nasty one-shot potential on squishies with his full AP build. But then, once the new item system came in, full tank Gragas became much more popular in the top lane. It was pretty flavor of the month when the chem tank meta was around, but honestly, I always thought it was pretty meh. It was just a consistent neutralizer, but no longer had that hard, carrying power from the times before Season 11. And now that bruisers have so many better choices for anti-magic builds, it's just a complete flop. Even if you neutralize your laner early, they very quickly outscale you and reach a point where they can pretty much totally ignore you. Without the ability to actually bully very many opponents, and other champs just being way more useful in 5v5s, there is just no upside to Gragas at the moment. With his super low impact, picking him is just coin flipping at best. Avoiding the champs on this list is a good starting point ranking up, but if you're actually serious about climbing, you should check out ProGuides.com. We have courses from all your favorite streamers and pros like CoreJJ, Aframu, and Xmithy to help you really understand how to play your role. And if you want a more personalized experience, we have coaches available 24/7, ready to help you become the best. Our coaches are top tier players that have spent years climbing the solo queue ladder to get where they are now, and they're ready to share everything they've learned with you. Find our site down in the description box below. Now, let's get back on topic, shall we? The other top laner you'll want to stay away from is Jace. While Gragas at least can be a nuisance in the early game, there's absolutely no upsides to Jace. At all stages of the game, he's super easy to bully with a single misstep in lane, making you super susceptible to an all-in by your opponent or a gank. This has sort of always been the case, but it's especially true after the nerfs that made him even squishier last patch. Jace is a champ that requires a lot of precision to pull off, but just dying once after a single mistake makes the rest of the laning phase nigh unplayable. And Jace outside of lane phase is even more useless without a lead. The only way Jace works is when his QE poke hits hard enough for him to go in and finish off a foe in hammer form. But when behind, you don't have kill threat on almost anyone, and you definitely can't safely play a side lane. Moving things into the jungle, we have Olaf. I don't know if you've seen that mid-scope update for him yet, but it looks like Olaf is going to be absolutely insane. In fact, if it ships as is, I'd say he may literally be the best jungler in the game. But that's in the future, and right now, Olaf is just completely awful. He's a champ that relies a lot on snowballing early, but at the moment, that's just not happening very often. And when it does happen, you usually fall off pretty fast anyways. The current meta is very dominated by champs that have super high DPS and just end up being kited and shredded. So yeah, definitely wait for that update. The other jungler who is in a very similar boat is Hecarim. For the past 2 seasons or so, Hecarim has been a menace with builds that make him pretty much unkillable while also having as much damage as the average glass cannon bruiser. The result was a tank, assassin, bruiser diver that could ult into the backline, kill a carry, and still be above half HP with the entire enemy team trying to bring him down. Obviously, that was a bit overtuned, so after months of it being allowed, Riot finally decided to shut it down. But once Hecarim's damage was lowered, he went from God tier to D tier. Now, if you build him tanky, he's not a threat at all. If you build him full damage, you definitely can run over a carry you find out on their own, but in 5v5s, you just get absolutely melted. Next up, we have our mid laners, where we'll start out with Ryze. Just like Jace earlier, Ryze has always been a champ that has struggled anywhere outside of the very highest levels of play. But due to his performance there, he was hit with some nerfs last patch that have made him even worse. Predictably, he dropped to the point that he's almost in danger of going under the 40% line. His weaknesses come from a variety of areas. For one, his early laning is absolutely horrendous, his trading is subpar, and even if you spam his spells to the point that you run out of mana, you struggle to push faster than other mid laners. He doesn't even scale all that well either. It takes until about 3 items that you'd consider Ryze online, but at that point, most other mid laners are a lot stronger. The one pro for Ryze is that he has point and click to set up ganks, but that's definitely not enough of a selling point to outweigh his cons. Plus, he barely even does that right. Rooting a target takes casting an E on them first. Compare to that with another point and click mage like Annie. Her CC is instant and she does insane burst even early. She can snowball with a lead really hard and is just better at all stages of the game. There was a point in time where you could practically expect another Ryze rework to be around the corner. I'm not kidding, he's gone through 6 different iterations. I actually think some of his older versions were healthier than the current one. Maybe not the one where he could 100 to 0 you while you were perma-rooted, but some of the other ones for sure. Anyways, I think Ryze is kind of overdue for another rework. Now that Riot has announced their new form of reworks, the comprehensive gameplay update, which we're seeing for Aurelion Sol, maybe Ryze will get one too. And that brings us to today's question of the day. What's another champ that you think is due for a CGU? In case you didn't read the roadmap, a CGU is basically an overhauling of a champion's kit while keeping their identity and visuals the same. The kit overhaul will be as big as a VGU, but without actually changing the champ's theme. Let us know who you think should be next in line down in the comments below. The other mid laner that can really tank your LP is Corky. Corky's scaling is pretty nice, but he takes way too long to come online. You just end up being absolutely rolled by both assassins and mages and don't actually get to see the point where you outscale your opponent. He used to have the saving grace of his package with it being up early and more often, but they changed that several patches ago. Without having that massively OP tool to lean on, there's just nothing that makes him worth locking in right now. Moving things down to the bot lane, the first champ to talk about is Zarya. For quite a while, Zarya was one of the worst performing AD carries in the game. Riot tried to give micro buffs here and there, but no matter what, she just wasn't getting better. But then, people discovered the lethality build. Instead of playing her like a hard, scaling hyper carry that builds crit and spikes hard at 3 items, the meta became build cheap lethality items and spam Q. This gave Zarya a super strong laning phase and also made her super safe outside of the lane. She could poke hard doing damage from well outside of most threats' effective ranges while having her ult ready in case your opponents tried to go for a flash engage on you. This style of play has been bringing in super consistent results, but since it leaves opponents without very many options for counterplaying it, it's getting some well-deserved nerfs. This will very likely see her go right back to where she was before the Q-Max build became the thing, so time to hang her up for now. Like most super mechanically intensive champs, Zarya is a champ that does extremely well at high levels of play, while anywhere outside of that, she ranges from bad to meh. Even right after her initial release, when she was insanely OP, she was performing just a bit above average at lower levels of play. Since then, she's gotten beaten with the nerf bat repeatedly, to the point that the champ is on the brink of death. Well, actually, in Master Plus games, she's still somehow viable, but outside of that, the champ is practically unviable. It's not just the Zarya players not being good enough mechanically, you also need a team that knows how to play around your ult and allow you to ramp up and pop off in fights. All in all, she's just way too hard to pull off and is absolutely not worth picking up for now. Now for our supports. We'll start off with Galio. Like Set, who we feature pretty often in this series, locking in Galio is akin to making your AD carry play the lane 1v2. He provides absolutely no pressure, with his Q poke being negligible and his engage being super telegraphed and easy to cancel or dodge. Outside of lane, things are even worse. His engage is even easier to deal with, as a frontliner can just face tank it, and his only other useful spell, his ult, is on a 5-year cooldown. if you're gonna pick something that makes your AD carry feel alone in lane, either pick something that can actually roam, like Bard or Pike, or something with insane scaling, like Sona or even Yuumi. Finishing off our list, we have Tahm Kench. While Riot tried to unbench support Kench by shuffling around some of his numbers and adding a movement speed effect to his ult when you eat an ally, they failed to hit the mark. He still does super well as a top laner and is an absolutely awful support. The only time he works in bot lane is when you play him with a fasting Senna, but at that point, Tahm is the carry, not the support. He takes all the farm, and Senna is the one with the support item. That lane is definitely good, but is one you should only be doing when you're duoing with someone. Trust me, it's not going to get good results if you decide to try this out with randoms in solo queue on a whim. And that about wraps things up for our worst 10 champs on patch 12.8. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to sub so you never miss out on our meta guides and so you're always in the loop on what the best picks are. Remember to let us know what champ needs the next CGU down in the comments below. And one last thing, don't forget to check out our Discord in the description box below, where you can discuss League further or just hang out and be a part of our community. I can't wait to see you guys back for the next video. But until then, good luck on the Rift, and may the LP gods smile down upon you.